and I'll just be like, it's not trashy enough for me. I'm sorry. That shit's too good for me. I'm not here for that. I want the cheap shit. That is what I'm here for. I refuse the fancy. I want the trash. Welcome to Electric Enthusiasm, the podcast where we celebrate unironic enthusiasm. I am a big, fluffy, full of gravy Yorkshire pudding. Katie!
Oh, that sounds delicious. And I'm Alexander Kjolf, and I'm hungry just thinking about this episode.
It's going to be one of those episodes that I'm going to regret listening to on an empty stomach, I think. So, Alex, tell me how this works.
Well, normally one of us would present a topic that they love, but the other one doesn't know anything about. But for this final episode of 2021, we thought we'd team up on something we both really, really love. Food.
Yum! We will still obviously have our moment of meta where we nerd out about enthusiasm and talk about why it matters and how to live a more enthusiastic life.
Because the world needs more enthusiasm, and you can share yours on our website, electricenthusiasm.com, or our Instagram @electricenthusiasm. Tell us what you're excited about these days, or you could even plain old send us an email at hello@electricenthusiasm.com.
The enthusiasm of the .com.
Oh yeah. So, in this episode, our topic is Christmas food. It is the season after all. And we like to start with the facts first here on the podcast. So, here's a fun question, Katie. When is Christmas?
It depends. It depends.
Uh-huh.
Like, I think depending on like your religious practice, because like Christmas was a pagan thing, then became a Christian thing. And so some people celebrate it at different times. For a lot of people, it's Christmas Eve is the big night. For some people, it's Christmas Day. But I see here you've got some other places as well that have different dates.
Yes. In Spain, for instance, kids get Christmas presents on January 6th, which is the day of the three magi, the three wise men, right?
Oh my gosh, imagine having to wait until January 6th to get your presents.
When
That sounds
all of
like
your other,
that's
all around the
harsh.
world, they
That's
get
harsh.
harsh. Yeah. Some place in Africa, like Ethiopia or Eritrea, they celebrate on January 7th. So really, when is Christmas? It's whenever. Sometime around December, January, usually. And of course, the other question is what is Christmas?
Are we gonna do this? Are we gonna get
We're
into
gonna
this?
do this.
Oh
Let's
wow.
do this.
Is it gonna get political? It's not gonna get political. It's fine.
How could it not?
So for some, it is a celebration of the birth of Jesus, but for most, it's that holiday at the end of the year where everyone gets together to give gifts. I will say it did start off as a very different festival, and then it was the winter solstice, and then it got co-opted by the Christian religion to become a Christian celebration about the birth of Jesus, despite the fact that he was probably born in the spring, I believe.
Well, the shepherds were tending sheep in the field, right? You don't do
Yeah,
that a lot in
in the winter.
in winter time. Yeah.
Strange things to do. I will say the thing that I find the most entertaining about Christmas is that even in countries where Christianity is not the dominant religion and never was the dominant religion, like for example Hong Kong, we still go hard on Christmas. It's
Yes.
not necessarily seen as like a family thing here, but one of the things I love about Christmas in Hong Kong is that all of the buildings get decked out in lights. Imagine like a wall of skyscrapers along the waterfront, all of them with different images of like LED Santa Clauses and reindeer and Christmas trees and presents. Some of them even have like really basic, like two images that flash between the two. So it's like really crappy animation, and it warms the cockles of my heart. I love it.
Yes. I think one of my favorite examples is Japan.
Yeah, I know about this one as well. This is great.
Yeah. What are the Japanese do on Christmas Eve?
So in the 1970s, there was a really insanely successful KFC advertising campaign, which established that you have Kentucky for Christmas. And so like the actual translation of the slogan was Kentucky for Christmas. And now everyone goes crazy for Kentucky Fried Chicken every year for Christmas. if you want to have KFC for Christmas Day, which apparently most of Japan does, you have to book weeks in advance. Like KFC gets booked out. You have if you want to order your food to have it delivered at home, you have to order in advance. Christmas is not necessarily a family thing in Japan. I believe it is a couple thing. It's more like Valentine's Day. So you go with your
Ah,
romantic partner. It's a day for you to exchange presents with that romantic person in your life. And it's not actually seen as a family
ah.
thing. It's more of a romantic couples. Weird. So
Interesting.
strange.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people, Christians and non-Christians, celebrate Christmas in whatever way, and of course, a lot of it is food
Mhm.
related. One of my favorite examples is Jewish people in the U.S., where it apparently became a tradition to go out for Chinese food on Christmas Eve, right?
Yeah.
Because the Jews don't celebrate Christmas, but the Chinese don't either. So the Chinese restaurants are open anyway. So now that's what a lot of Jewish people do on Christmas Eve is they go out for Chinese, which sounds like a wonderful tradition as well.
I love it. I love it. Like it's for me it's one of those things where like you guys aren't Christian, we're not Christian. Yo, let's party. Let's celebrate together. Like we're
Hmm.
both not interested in this thing. Let's eat.
Yeah. So we're gonna talk Christmas foods, and specifically we're gonna talk about our favorite Christmas foods because I'm really enthusiastic about Christmas foods. We have some great food traditions in Denmark. Before we do that, do you want to hear about the single weirdest Christmas food that I know of?
Go on. I'm curious.
The bathtub carp of Central Europe.
Oh wow.
Have you heard about this ever?
I think so, but I'm not sure and I would like more information, please.
Okay, it's pretty awesome. In Slovakia and some of the neighboring countries, the Christmas meal is carp.
Mm,
So what you do is a couple of days before Christmas, you buy a live carp. You
okay.
take it home and you pop it in the bathtub with water, right? So for
Uh-huh.
a couple of days, you have this carp swing around your bathtub.
Yeah.
The kids name it. You can't have
Oh,
baths.
no, no, no. Don't name it. You're gonna eat it.
I know, right? The tradition is that on Christmas Eve, you kill it, clean it, cook it, and eat it. Of course, some families then can't bring themselves to kill it. Have to come up with a different Christmas meal. Yeah, I think this is just fantastic tradition.
I recognize you are not Central European and you might not be able to answer my questions, but why do you keep it for a couple days first?
I actually know this. Carp are bottom feeders. So you want to give them a couple of days in clean water to clean out their digestive tracts before you kill
Ah,
them and cook them,
okay.
apparently. Yeah. I think it's probably partly that. It might also have been that in Soviet bloc countries, food supply was a little erratic. So maybe
Mm.
bringing home a live carp would guarantee that you had a carp on Christmas Eve.
Well, I was gonna say it's very common in Chinese households to have like the freshest food possible. When we go to the wet market to buy dinner, sometimes we take the food home still alive. Specifically, like prawns in particular tend to be alive when we take them home. Clams, like most seafood, the fish, because the mindset in China is that the fresher the meal is in terms of like you kill it, then you cook it, then you eat it, the better it is. So for me, I'm just like, why would you wait? Like, we for example, tonight we're gonna have steamed fish and prawns for dinner. Like, the alive animals are in our kitchen in, like, a bowl at the moment because 'cause we're gonna eat them tonight. And so I'm like, just
Yeah.
why would you have it in your house for a couple days? Just eat it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
Soviet thing of food being erratic, that makes sense to me. Like, okay, yeah, then you don't know when you're gonna get the carp as soon as you can, look after it. That makes sense.
It could be that. It could be just tradition. We've done it this way, right? But also, there are a lot of problems with it. I mean, one is you can't bathe for a couple of days. Kids naming it and get attached to it. But also,
Yeah.
carp's a strong fish. Apparently, killing one of them is not easy. You have
Oh,
to whack it really hard with a club, and then you cut its head off. That's a whole thing. And
oof.
then I think what the weirdest part is that apparently it tastes like crap. It's just not a very tasty fish, and it's full of tiny little bones. So it's
Oh.
not even a very good meal apparently. Because
That's such
yeah,
a shame. That's such a shame. Tradition should be tasty.
I right, food should taste good. So those are the bathtub carps of Slovakia and Central Europe.
Crazy.
Oh, I'd like to talk a little bit about Danish Christmas food traditions. Yeah.
Yes.
And we have two big traditions. There's the Christmas Eve dinner. In
Mhm.
Denmark, we celebrate Christmas on the 24th. You usually get together with your family, have a big Christmas meal. I said that Christmas is not very religious, but there are two competing religions in Denmark on
Hmm.
Christmas Eve. There are those who believe that the Christmas dinner should be roast duck, and those who believe that it should be pork roast.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, let me tell you, tensions around that can get really serious.
Where are you on this spectrum?
I'm a pork guy. If I could only pick one, I'd go for the pork roast because that's
Mm,
super tasty and you get the crackling. That's the whole reason why. It's the pork crackling, the crispy
fair.
skin,
Yeah.
which is amazing. But seriously, this is a big deal. There are family therapists in Denmark who say that their work is extra intense around Christmas because people fight about all of these little traditions. Let's say a young couple gets together for the first time. They're inviting their families over for the first Christmas, and one of them comes from a duck family, and one of them comes from a pork family. Oh
Hmm.
my God, that's a
Drama.
problem. Yeah, drama.
Wow.
So what do you do in a lot of situations?
Why not both? Go
Why not
P9.
both? Exactly. Exactly. Christmas is very much about overeating. So, hey, let's cook both and people can have whatever they want. And that's actually what we ended up doing in my family as well.
Yeah.
We always cook both.
So interestingly, there has been a little bit of family drama in my personal family for this Christmas. This is my first Christmas back home for a while, and I have heard tales about my mother's cooking. Like my mom's a very good cook, but she insists on salt brining the turkey, and some
Hmm.
years it's been very salty. Everyone in my family, bar my father, are very good cooks, but my brother is flexing a little bit now. He's like starting to get better and better. And so my dad and I schemed. And we've now established Christmas this year is going to be a cook off between my mother and my brother. So they're both going to cook a very large chicken, and we're just going to see who wins. And I think, do you know who's going to win, Alex? Do you know truly
Hmm.
who will win this?
You will.
Exactly. Everyone who gets to eat, we are the true winners because we get to eat more
Yes.
food. So I'm
Yes.
very excited about this. I think this is a fabulous scheme. And I think we're going to have an amazing Christmas. And I also feel like one of the other things that comes with Christmas meals is the
Hmm.
inevitable family drama, argument, conflict about politics. So
Yes.
I feel like this is going to do two things. One, we get excellent food. Two, if there is going to be an argument, it'll be about chicken and not about the protests. And I think this is a far better solution. Two birds, one stone.
So to speak. May the best chicken win, I
Hmm.
guess. Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
may the people eating win because we will win.
Yeah,
Truly.
yeah. Here's the fun thing. Whether you serve duck or pork, everything around it stays the same, right? So you'll have some boiled potatoes, you'll have some pickled red cabbage, you'll have a gravy, super important. So all the fixings, all the what do you call those
Yeah, fixins
side
works.
dishes? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, are the same whether you serve duck or pork. And one of them is super important. That's the other thing that has to be there on Christmas Eve for me, which is caramel potatoes.
What? Okay, first off, you said boiled potatoes, and I don't,
Yeah,
the people watching on YouTube, I had a reaction to that. Roasted potatoes are the way forward. Boiled potatoes, no, 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 no. But what are caramel potatoes? Please tell me
yes,
more. What is that?
yes. They're so weird and so delicious. You boil some small potatoes, like 3-4 centimeter size, right?
Yeah, like little new potatoes.
Exactly. You let them cool off, and then you make a caramel. So you melt some sugar in a pan, add some butter, you get this delicious caramel sauce, and then you toss those potatoes in the caramel until they are, brown and coated in caramel sauce. And it sounds so weird, and it tastes so good that one time a year.
This, I'm sorry, podcast listeners, I was just staring at Alex for a little bit with a slightly
I
dumbfounded look on
know.
my face.
I
Um,
know. I
this
know.
sounds like that American tradition of sweet potato casserole. Have you heard about that
Hmm.
thing?
But never try. Have you tried it?
No, it sounds
No.
terrible. For those of
Yeah.
you who've never heard of it, they get sweet potato, mash it with, I think, butter and milk, and then they top it with marshmallows or
Uh
brown
huh.
sugar or cinnamon. and then put it back in the oven for the marshmallows to melt, and then they eat that with, like, the savory meal. Like, to me, the second you've done the marshmallow moment, I'm just like, "Yo, dessert territory." Like, sweet potatoes for dessert, I'm here for that. Like, I'm Asian, we have taro in our dessert, we have red beans in our dessert, that's fine with me, but do not eat that with turkey, that's so weird. That's so
Yeah,
weird.
yeah. And honestly, I could not tell you why the caramel potatoes work, but they do. It's so delicious with the pork, with the salty pork
Yeah, I
or
can
the
see,
duck.
like, for me, the
Yeah.
caramel is less offensive.
Yes, actually, yeah. We don't. Maybe I
There's
should try
no
this year. Maybe this
marshmallows.
year I'm gonna top them with marshmallows and see what happens.
Please don't.
I won't. I promise you, I will not. Okay, the final food tradition in Denmark on Christmas Eve is a dessert. In fake French, we call it risalamande, which is
Uh-huh.
not French. It's just that it's a Danish version of what French might sound like for
Almond rice?
rice. Exactly, rice with almonds.
Yes. Ha 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 ha. I
Very good.
speak fake French.
Fake Danish French. Um,
It's a very niche
and
language.
I know, right? Not a lot of people speak it, but you do, and that's very good. What you do is you make a rice porridge from milk, sugar, vanilla, a little bit of salt, and rice. You let that cool, and then you mix it with chopped almonds and huge amounts of whipped cream. So it
Mm,
becomes this creamy, fluffy dessert.
mm.
You serve it with cherry sauce.
Almonds and
Yeah,
cherries are good friends. That's a good combination.
yes. And by the way, that's another religious feud: is should the cherry sauce be hot or cold? Some people get very intense about that. But the fun thing is that what you do is you make a huge portion of that and you hide an almond in it somewhere, a whole almond, one whole
Mm.
almond in it, and whoever finds that gets the almond present. The
Oh,
host has
cool.
bought a present, a little gift
Yeah.
that then that person gets. You might have two or three presents, then you put in two or three almonds, and then the tradition is that as you're eating, if you find the almond, you try to hide the fact that you found it to keep everybody else still eating. Because people get very invested in getting that,
Yeah, of
getting the
course.
almond. Yeah,
I
yeah,
like
yeah,
the
yeah.
idea of, like, you just hiding it in the corner of your cheek while continuing to eat normally. You're just like, "Yeah, I don't have an almond in my mouth. Don't look
No,
at the fact
me? No.
that my mouth is slightly bulging on the left
Yeah,
side. Nothing
yeah,
to look
yeah,
at here."
yeah. Some people come to the table with an almond in their pocket that they've scored somewhere. Yeah, yeah, that's cheating.
How
Yeah.
dare they? How dare
How,
they
how dare
ruin the
they? Yeah.
sanctity of almond rice?
Well, and the spirit of Christmas is sort of greedy, so I think it fits in quite well. So that's the Christmas Eve dinner in Denmark. It's quite simple food, but I love it so much.
Mhm.
Would I eat those caramel potatoes any other time of year? Hell no. It's just that one time a year they're delicious, and the rest of the year they're actually a little, I don't know, a little yucky. But
A bit too
that one time
much.
a year, a little bit too much, exactly. That one time a year they're absolutely delicious.
I kinda wanna try them, like, a salted caramel on a potato.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
I think with, like, something savory, that could be totally delicious, and, like, in my head, I'd also probably, like, toast some walnuts or some pecans to put on top for extra crunch factor.
It's not a
I'm
bad
a
idea.
I'm a big fan of, like, textural things, so you have, like, a creamy potato, the lovely silky caramel sauce, and a little crunch of a nut.
Yeah,
That sounds like
yeah. That's where the pork crackling, the pork skin comes in.
yeah, there you go.
Super crispy. Yeah, so important.
So herein lies my dilemma when it comes to Christmas food. Because
Mhm.
since I was 17, I've had a on again, off again long term relationship with vegetarianism and veganism.
Yeah, yeah.
So when I turned 17, I decided I didn't want to eat meat anymore. My whole family were shocked. They started placing bets, thinking that I would last maximum a month. It's now been over 10 years. When I am living by myself and not at home with my family, I'm pretty much vegan at home and vegetarian when I'm out and about, except Hong Kong is the worst country in the world to be vegetarian in. Like, even if I go somewhere and I order the vegetarian noodles, like, basically, like, I order with no meat on it and I ask them to take the meat off, I know the soup still has meat in it.
Yeah,
100% definitely does.
yeah.
And no matter what I do, I know I'm gonna be consuming some form of meat everywhere because it's very common in Chinese cuisine when you're stir frying vegetables to add a little extra flavor, you'll pop a little, like, not a lot of pork, but just a little bit of pork just to give it flavor, or they'll cook it in lard. And also, like, a lot of my favorite foods growing up have meat in them. Which is all, like, all to say, I have been very bad at being vegetarian now that I'm back in Hong Kong. I accept this. I admit
Hmm.
this. I'm terrible. It's the worst. Um, and when I'm away from home, when I'm living back in Europe, it's a lot easier because none of my favorite things are around. Like there's no tasu bao, there's no sudong bao, there's no dim sum. So it's much easier for me to avoid eating it when it's just not there. But it does make Christmas like a really weird battle because I am very, very, very enthusiastic for roast birds. Like I really love roast chicken. I love roast turkey less so, but I love roast duck and roast goose.
Hmm.
So when you said you were team pork over roast duck, I was like, you are incorrect, sir. As a slightly vegetarian person, the correct answer was roast duck.
Yeah,
So in Denmark, I have a religion. I know what side I'm on.
there you go. Then we can no longer be friends. That was too bad. Nice knowing you. Bye, Katie.
Every year for Christmas, I've always had this like little dilemma like, should I do a vegetarian vegan Christmas or should I do a meat Christmas? And normally I'm
Hmm.
somewhere in the middle. I normally just try to make sure there's loads of delicious vegetarian or vegan options on the table. And that way I'm encouraged to eat more veggie vegan stuff. But if I'm going somewhere where there are other people around, I know tradition is very important to people. And I recognize that for some people, not having some sort of roast meat for Christmas is like honestly sacrilegious. And I don't want to
Hmm.
make anybody upset. So I
Yeah.
normally do end up eating some kind of meat on Christmas. Um, but I will say I've had so much fun in the last couple of years of when I've been able to like kind of have a bit more control over my Christmas, experimenting with veggie vegan options. Like, your girl can make a mean nut roast. I do a fabulous nut roast.
Mm. Mm.
Working in like how to do, I'm gonna do a stuffed squash. I'm gonna get like little kombucha squashes and then stuff them with like a chestnut and mushroom mixture. I know for a lot of people it doesn't scream Christmas, but for me, like getting to experiment with new recipes and find new ways of creating that same kind of hearty, warm, roasty, toasty flavors, but with veggie stuff is like it's fun. It's like a whole little adventure.
It sounds delicious, and I'm sure it is. The problem is it's not traditional.
That's the
So I
thing.
think what's necessary, what's needed for a lot of these vegetarian and vegan options is to make them a tradition.
Mhm.
Serve them every year for 10 years, and now it is a tradition, right? Or
Exactly.
I think one of the weirdest examples. Have you heard about tofurkey?
No, I have heard of this. I just no is my response to that. Just no. 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 Please no. It's like tofu that's made into turkey, right?
It's shaped like a turkey, so you can serve it like as an alternative to a roast turkey.
Uh,
So I think that's another no, right?
I tell you my honest opinion of that? My
Yes, hit
honest
me.
opinion is that that's white people shit. The way the West approaches tofu is so dumb. It's not a meat substitute. That's not how we see it. It's just food. Treat it like its own thing. It's just delicious.
Yeah.
Treat it like normal fucking food and stop trying to make it taste like turkey. Just eat it. Buy good quality tofu. And honestly, like if you have good quality tofu, all you have to do, steam it, put a little bit of soy sauce, a little bit of like sesame oil, some scallions, some cilantro on top, and that's it. That's all you have to do to it
Mhm.
because it should be super delicious and tasty by itself. If you have to press tofu, the fuck are you doing? If you have to marinate your tofu, like what? Stop. Just don't eat that tofu. That's not good tofu. Don't eat that. Ah, sorry. Like not only am I like flexitarian veggie vegan, but I'm also a Chinese woman. Like you cannot bring up tofurkey in front of me and expect me not to rant. Shit's offensive.
Oh my god, that was amazing. That was amazing. That was amazing.
I am the exact opposite of their target demographic, I think.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
whoever their
yeah, yeah,
target demographic is, I'm literally the opposite on every spectrum.
yeah. Probably true. I think what we should have are more traditional vegetarian Christmas meals because let's face it's not about the meal. You can have that meal any time of year. It's about the tradition.
Yeah,
It's about the
the people.
psychological safety and comfort you find in knowing that things are not going to change this year. They're going to be the same as last year, and the year before that, and the year before that. I'm going to recognize myself in this Christmas.
For me, that's what makes Christmas Christmas. For me, it's the people.
Yeah.
And it's like when we talk about Christmas food, for me, it's a lot of food memories of people. So, like making Christmas cookies every year with my best friend in Germany, that's like a Christmas tradition. Or
Yes.
sitting on the sofa watching crappy Christmas movies with my flatmate in London with a giant bowl of roasted chestnuts between us,
Yeah.
right? So for me,
Yeah.
it's like the combination of the I don't have Christmas traditions that don't change year on year. That's not how my Christmas goes, but like there are certain food and certain flavors that I associate with people and memories that make it special and magical and covered
Yes.
in tinsel. So I think we have very different Christmases, but I think it's very interesting to see how our Christmases are still based around delicious tasting things.
So you talk about people and how all of these traditions are really about people, right? In my research for this episode, I came across some interesting articles on communal eating and how valuable it is when people eat together. And I found two really important terms for it. One is just the act of eating together is called commensality.
Commensality. Ooh.
Commensality, yeah, that you'll find that in a lot of academic research on people eating together. And then the other expression that I really loved, the other term that I really loved was they talk about these large communal gatherings where a whole town might eat together, or much larger groups. And the academic term for that is feasting.
Hey, that's nice.
Yay! Feasting. I love that. Anyway, we know from the research that people who eat socially together are more likely to feel better about themselves and to have a wider social network capable of providing social and emotional support. We know from the research that evening meals at which laughter and reminiscences occur and alcohol is drunk are especially likely to enhance feelings of closeness. One specific article I found looked at firefighters because in a lot of fire stations, there's a tradition that actually cook dinner together and then have dinner together. And the firefighters, the teams who did that, actually performed better than the firefighters who didn't. So eating together is a good thing. I think we all knew that, and that's
Yeah.
what all of these traditions are really about, right? The food is the gathering point, but the point is not the food. The point is the people around it.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. And like, I feel like if you're in a situation right now, like COVID has kept a lot of people separated, a lot of people apart. Even if you have a small Christmas, even if it's just one or two other people, it still can have that feeling of warmth and joy. If you still have that someone else to chat with, even if it's over Zoom. I remember I've had like I imagine all of us have had at least one Zoom birthday at this point, um,
Hmm.
or a smaller Christmas than you expected. You can always still, if you just have that one other person there to eat with, even if it's just a flatmate or a neighbor, you can still have that feeling of being with somebody else if you don't get to have that big Christmas that you wanted to have this year or maybe last year. Oof, COVID. Or the year before that. No, COVID wasn't that bad.
No, not yet.
Not yet.
There's one other Danish Christmas food thing that I wanted to talk about.
Mm.
So we talked about the Christmas dinner, which is on Christmas Eve, the 24th. But we also, and I think this might be even more important, we have the Christmas lunch.
How much do y'all eat? Oh my gosh.
I know, right? The Christmas lunches can be any time from basically from mid-November until, it stretches into January sometimes. And crucially, they're actually rarely a lunch. It's usually a dinner, but we still call them a
Mhm.
Christmas lunch because tradition. It started out in the workplace. Post World War II, it became a tradition that you'd end work early on December 24th, and then the boss would invite you to their home for like a little snack, a glass of port, and then you'd go home to your family and have Christmas dinner with them. From there, it grew and developed, became a whole thing in the workplace. And it became very much about, yes, the food, but also very much about the alcohol. Yeah. At this Christmas lunch, the food is divided in three parts. It is usually buffet style, so you go grab whatever you want. But there are rules. And what's so culturally interesting is that nobody has ever sat down and told me these rules. You assimilate these rules through osmosis over the years, and they're
Yeah.
quite intricate. So there are three parts to the Christmas lunch, and part one is the fish, part
Mhm.
two is the meat, part three is the cheese. Nobody tells you this that you're supposed to know, right? The fish is it can be shrimp, it can be like a breaded fried fish fillet, but mostly it's pickled herring, and never just one kind. There has to be at least two or three kinds of pickled herring.
How very Scandinavian of you.
I know, right? The pickled herring you eat is very important on rye bread.
Yep. I've been to a Swedish Midsummer, and so I've had I mean, not like the horror movie, like the actual celebration of
Yeah,
Midsummer.
yeah,
I've had a lot of pickled herring on rye bread.
yeah, yeah. That's very much a thing. The fish fillet on rye bread, the shrimp you eat on white bread. Very important. Nobody ever tells you this, but very important that you eat that on white bread. And then you go into the meat part, which is mainly pork. Pork
Mm.
meatballs, pork roast, pork sausage, maybe a ham with all of the different, again, all of the different sides with that. And then finally you eat the cheese, and maybe there's some of the risalamande that we talked about earlier. Another culturally weird thing is what you may or may not combine, because some of the sides go with some of the dishes and some of them do not, right? So, for instance, we have, and again, nobody tells you this. You're supposed to figure this out by osmosis culturally.
Yeah.
Um, so, we have something called remoulade. Have you ever had remoulade?
I've heard of it. I know the word and I don't know why. Oh, it's like the
Yeah.
roll. It's the meat roll.
No, no, that's a roulade.
Oh, no, then I
Close.
don't know.
Yeah. Now, remoulade exists in different versions around the world. The Danish version is basically a mayonnaise that you mix up with some turmeric to make it yellow, and then some pickled vegetables to make it a little acidic.
Yeah, yeah.
And so the remoulade is there, and it's okay to put that on the breaded fish fillet. That will be fine, but putting it on the herring would be very wrong and get you thrown out of the country. You can put the remoulade on like on a salami, but putting it on the meatballs would be very wrong and get you thrown out of the country. And it's so weird because nobody ever sits down and tells you this. You're just supposed to figure it out. That's how culture spreads, right?
Yeah.
It's not the things people tell you. It's all the things they don't tell you.
This reminds me of when I brought one of my friends from the UK back to Hong Kong with me one time to visit. Like, he wanted to see Hong Kong, and I was heading back home for the Swing Festival, so they joined me, and we went out for dim sum. And I realized there was a wrong way to eat dim sum. I had not realized there was a wrong way to do it until I saw him. Dim sum, you have lots of little dumplings, lots of little dishes, and a very small bowl and a very small plate. So the way you
Mhm.
eat dim sum, which I'd never been taught, like you said, no one taught me this. I just know this is how you do it. You take a dumpling, a thing, a bite of food, put it in your bowl. If you want to add sauce, you add sauce. Then you eat that one dumpling. Then, if you want another dumpling, you get the next thing, put it in your bowl, then you eat it. What you don't do, which I didn't realize was really weird until I saw it, is get your tiny little bowl and get one of each dumpling and put it into your bowl and then sit down and eat all of the dumplings. And like that makes total sense. Like you want to have one of
Mhm.
everything, and so you take one of everything and then you eat it. But like I was watching it, I was just like, one, that bowl is tiny. You have like a mountain of food in this tiny, tiny bowl. And two, stop. No, don't do that. That's so wrong. Why would you do that? Ah. Like, it
Yep.
just looked so strange to me, and I was just like that was one of those moments where I'm like,
Yeah.
"Ah, culture. This is culture. This is
Hmm.
how we have culture." Um,
Exactly.
so yeah, if you're at dim sum, eat one thing at a time, please, and don't put
Yep.
remoulade on meatballs, otherwise the Danes are
No.
coming for you.
Yeah. It's so interesting that you weren't even aware of this
No.
rule. You didn't even know this rule until you saw somebody doing it wrong.
Until I saw someone breaking the rule. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's very strange.
Of course, the really important thing about the Christmas lunch is it's the booze. There will be beer, a lot of beer. There will be a lot of specifically Christmas beer. Every major brewery in Denmark have their regular beer they brew, and then in December there's a Christmas version of that beer, which is darker, sweeter, and has more alcohol. Yeah, but the beer is not really the main point. The main point here is the schnapps, which is this
Oh,
Danish
snaps, yeah, yeah.
alcohol. Yeah, schnapps. Yeah, which honestly does not taste very good, which is why we drink it nearly frozen.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and we drink it from these tiny little shot glasses, and you never drink half of a schnapps. You drink the whole thing, and then you get another one.
Mm.
Yeah, it gets pretty intense.
Do you guys have the tradition of ugly Christmas sweaters?
Yes, that's very much a thing for a
Yeah.
Christmas lunch.
That's one of my
Absolutely, yeah,
favorite UK traditions is the ugly Christmas sweater.
yeah. That's the Danish Christmas lunch, which is again very much about bringing people together around
Mm.
a lot of food and even more drink.
What I really like about this episode is it's really showing the differences in our experiences of Christmas. Like your Christmas comes from very like a very traditional background. It's also like very rooted in your Danish identity, which is super cool. Um,
Hmm.
and is clearly like focused on the traditional aspects of like each year we do this and this and this, and there's certain things that have to happen every year versus my weird little nomadic life of like one, I come from a culture where we don't really celebrate Christmas. Like Hong Kong people
Hmm.
generally don't celebrate Christmas. My family do because my father is British, but
Hmm.
it's not super traditionalized because there's no tradition of really celebrating Christmas on my mother's side of the family. And like Hong Kong is a place like maybe the immigrants will celebrate Christmas, but like the local people don't really celebrate. And so it's like kind of there's not a lot of like built-in traditions that come from Hong Kong or are rooted in like my homeland. I mean, I guess the UK is my homeland, but yeah. And then on top of that, like I've been traveling for years and also don't really eat meat and don't really drink alcohol, which makes me a really fun time at Christmas. I feel like if I went to Denmark for Christmas, everyone would be like, "No, no, no."
Here, have some more pork.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Drink another Christmas beer.
I think one of the benefits of being a little weirdo nomad is that you get to create traditions,
Yeah,
and you get to kind of, like, make the Christmas that you want to make and
yeah.
have a Christmas that's mindful of maybe people who don't drink and people who don't eat certain things, and I think one of the things that I did the last couple years was just hang out with one friend, and then we would create the Christmas that we wanted to create, and so sometimes, like, our big fancy meal was, like, a cha chaan teng classic because we missed home.
Mhm.
Or we would have a day where we just made cookies and made Christmas and decorated Christmas cookies, and that was our meal. Or a cheese board, because like a cheese board, you can pick what you want out of it. And so we'd go crazy buying fancy
Mm,
cheeses and get some deli meats and stuff. And that would be our meal for the day. Being able
mm.
to create Christmas traditions is really exciting. Even if it's a Christmas tradition that only lasts 2 years or 3 years, that's still something quite beautiful and something quite fun. Basically, I'm not one for tradition.
Yeah. I think the best traditions are the ones you create
Mm,
rather than the ones you just mindlessly follow.
yeah.
Being forced by COVID or by circumstances or by traveling to have a different Christmas and then finding out, hey, this kind of works. Let's do
Yeah.
something like this again.
Yeah.
Those traditions are actually amazing. And again, it is about the people. It's not about the food. It is about the social aspect and the connectedness with others,
Mhm.
however you create that.
Where should a person go to learn more about Christmas food?
We can link a couple of articles on the value of eating together
Mhm.
and on various Christmas foods around the world. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I will link to a video that shows you how to make caramel potatoes.
Yes, please. I'm very intrigued. Yes, I'm very intrigued.
So, dear listener, what do you think about Christmas food? Do you have a favorite one? Go to our website and tell us all about it. electricenthusiasm.com or our Instagram at electricenthusiasm.
And now it is time for our moment of meta, where we're going to talk about having enthusiasm for food instead of shame or guilt.
Yes. Food is amazing, right?
Agreed, 100%.
Exactly. There are people who eat to live and people who live to eat. And
And
I am,
we both
yeah, we
are
are
in the second
definitely in the latter
category.
category. Yeah. Um, there are honestly people who wouldn't eat if they didn't have to. But for me, each and every single meal is a chance for enjoyment and pleasure and community and
Mhm.
enjoying life. There's something so satisfying and so very basically human about enjoying food.
I am in 100% agreement. One, I love talking about food. And two, it's an excuse to be able to talk about culture and perception and how people see things. And that's always delightfully fascinating.
Yes. I've struggled to think of a single important moment in life or in culture, in society, a single celebration that doesn't have some kind of food and drink involved in it.
If it is, it's not a celebration I'm interested in going to. Like, what's on the menu? This is one of those things where I think many people, I think most millennial women that I know have some level of body dysmorphia. I think most people who grew up in my generation, we grew up watching like super, super skinny women in the media, particularly in Asia. Like everyone here is so stick thin on the TV and in the magazines. It gives you this really warped sense of your body, which then gives you a really weird relationship with food. And I think learning how to embrace food and have a really positive relationship to food and having enthusiasm for good, nutritious, delicious food is such an important skill. And it's something that you might need to put time and effort into learn because not everyone has that as a given. And some people have to really work towards having that. It's very important and difficult thing to do.
Yes, we eat several times a day. If every single one of those occasions is accompanied by guilt or shame or, regret or whatever, that's going to be bad. Eating should be inherently pleasurable. Whatever you eat, whether you're eating a salad or whether you're eating, pork crackling, uh, enjoy the hell out of it while you eat it. Make sure that you eat in a way where you can actually enjoy your meals, where you can actually sit down and say, this meal was a good experience.
Our Modesty Blaze has some really good thoughts about this stuff. I want to get a quote from her.
Jamila Jamil talks about this a lot.
She often talks about this idea, particularly during this time of year, this season. It's really, really easy to try and count calories or think that, okay, I've eaten this, therefore then I have to do X, Y, and Z to make up for it, or I've been quote unquote bad and therefore I need to fast as a form of punishment. There's a lot of really unhealthy disordered eating approaches to food which can flare up around this time of year because there is that pressure to have a family meal where people are going to be watching you eat, and that can cause a lot of psychological confusion. And I really do not feel qualified to talk about this in all honesty, but as someone who has, like, I'm assuming most people have some sort of body dysmorphia. Like, I look at my body and I think certain things that I know factually are not true, but it doesn't matter if factually I recognize that I am not overweight. Or, like, what's worse than like this period of time for me is the new year, new you, January, like, let's lose that Christmas
Hmm.
weight bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, I find that really fucking annoying and toxic as shit. Like, however much you wanna eat, eat. However much you enjoy the food, enjoy the food. When you're full and you wanna stop, you can stop. That's fine. And at the end of it, once you finish eating it, you are not bad. You have not done anything wrong. I'm also talking to myself here. You are fine to eat that food and not have to go to the gym the next day and work out. You don't have to earn the calories that you eat. You should just eat. It's okay. Everything's fine.
Yes. And I think one of the saddest things here is also then exercise becomes a punishment.
Mm,
And it
yeah.
shouldn't be. If exercise is something you do as a punishment for having eaten well, you're never going to build up a healthy habit of exercising.
Mhm.
It's always going to be something you hate and something you do in spite of hating it. And that's just not sustainable. If you hate running, it's not going to work. If
Yeah.
you love running, if you're one of those weirdos like Mark,
Yeah, I was gonna say our ultra marathon crazy guy.
yeah, by all means go running. And then the other idea that if you stick to foods you don't like, you'll eat less, that's actually turns out to be wrong. They did a fascinating experiment in the US where they gave people free popcorn
Mm,
at the movies. They weighed the popcorn before and after to see how much people ate. And some of the people got like 5-day old stale popcorn, and some of the people got freshly made, delicious popcorn.
mm.
And the people who got stale popcorn ate more popcorn.
What? Why?
Why? The best explanation is that they're not really getting that popcorn experience, right? So they keep eating in
Ah,
in the hopes of achieving that good popcorn flavor, that good popcorn eating experience. And they never
yeah.
get it, so they keep on eating. So this whole idea that you're not allowed to enjoy a good meal, and if you eat something really tasty, then you should feel ashamed about it and exercise afterwards as a punishment, I think is just absolutely terrible. You're going to eat several times a day for the rest of your life. You should absolutely enjoy it. So
Mhm.
so find a way to do that. And I think some of the ways to do that is to work on your feelings toward food, but it's also eat good food. And
Yeah.
good food is not necessarily expensive. Food you enjoy doesn't have to be fancy. One of my absolute favorite dishes is like a good spaghetti aglio olio, which has 5 ingredients and takes 15 minutes to make, start to finish.
Yep.
YouTube as a fantastic resource for tons of great dishes that are easy to make and super, super tasty. And there is no inherent contradiction between the two. Food can be super good for you and super tasty at the same time. I think it has to be. You should be enthusiastic about your food.
Yeah, 100%. And like the food that you're enthusiastic for doesn't have to be the super expensive fancy pants food. It could be the food that makes you happy, the food that brings you joy. So, speaking more about dim sum, because I love dim sum, there's a very famous dim sum called siu mai, which is like normally it's some kind of pork. It's not kosher, with shrimp and maybe some like crab roe on top, and it's in a yellow wrapper. And it's very beautiful and very aesthetic. That's when you get in the restaurants. The one you get in the street food stalls are mostly fish paste and flour in the yellow wrapper, and more often more flour than fish paste. It's mostly just a carbo dumpling. The one you buy at the restaurants might be like $30 for like 3 dumplings, maybe a little bit less, a little more, depending on how fancy the restaurant you're at. The street food is like 10 Hong Kong dollars, which is €1 for like 10. And they come with like a soy sauce and a chili oil. And every day of the week, I will pick the street food dumpling over the fancy pants restaurant one. There is never like we go to the restaurants and my family will order the siu mai, and I'll just be like, it's not trashy enough for me. I'm sorry. That shit's too good for me. That has real meat in it. I'm not here for that. That's not what I want in a siu mai. I want the cheap shit that I know is mostly flour, that has got the spicy soy sauce. That is what I'm here for, and I reject any other siu mai. I refuse the fancy. I want the trash.
Oh. Yes, exactly. Because the trash one makes you happy.
Oh my god, it makes me so much happier. Yeah. And also, you get like 10.
Excellent. Any closing thoughts on enthusiasm for food?
If you are feeling like you are having a weird relationship with food, talk to somebody, seek out a therapist, talk to someone you trust. This is something you can definitely get help for, and you don't have to do it alone. So if you feel like your food is scary or is difficult, or you don't want to be eating, you don't know how to enjoy eating, if what we're saying to you sounds like something that's beyond your understanding, please, please, please talk to somebody. We'll make sure there's some links in the description for places where you can go for help and support. But you do not have to do this alone. It's okay. There are people out there who want you to have enthusiastic relationships to food. We do, but we're not qualified to talk to you. So talk to people who are qualified.
Yes, exactly. Katie, if somebody really enjoyed this episode, what other episode would they also like?
I mean, if you enjoy being hungry while listening to a podcast, the Cha Chen Tang episode is also a great place to go. I mean, I don't know who wants... I'm really hungry right now. I don't know who wants to experience this, but if you do, we have more episodes in this genre of making you hungry. So you can go listen to those.
Yeah. And then I've got to say that our episode with Mark, the ultramarathoner, not because we promote running, because both of us hate running, but his approach to it was that he ran not because he wanted to punish himself, not to lose weight, but because he loves running, the weirdo.
Absolute fucking weirdo.
And the way he talked about finding his enthusiasm for running, maintaining it while training insane amounts of hours. And of course, the Gummy Bears. I thought the Gummy Bears were amazing.
Now that is a man who's found the food that brings him joy.
Yes.
And eats it with enthusiasm.
And no shame.
None whatsoever.
Yeah, that will be another good episode to listen to.
We should give a little heads up. This is going to be the last episode of the year. We're going to take a break because we record these on the weekly basis, and me and Alex want to have a Christmas holiday. So we're going to be taking a little break for the rest of the year. We'll be back in January with lots more lovely episodes about the things that would get us super enthusiastic and guests who are also super enthusiastic. So, dear podcast listeners, we will see you in January. And if you're wondering what to get us for Christmas, you can give us the greatest Christmas present of all by sharing our podcast with at least 10 friends.
Dear listener, we hope you enjoyed sharing some of our enthusiasms for food in this episode. Go visit our website, electricenthusiasm.com, or find us on Instagram at electricenthusiasm to discover more episodes or leave a comment.
And now, dear listener, go be darker, sweeter, and have more alcohol, or the beverage of your choice.